Well, we don't feel it's being secret. We feel it's being confidential.
Aw, Christopher owns a thesaurus.
What's the difference?
Thank you.
The difference is, I guess it's a point of view. It's...
The difference is, Hello, lovely people. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Emma. Welcome if you are new. Today's going to be a very interesting one. We're going to take a look at a 60 Minutes, which is a news magazine show produced by CBS. A 60 Minutes episode all about a whistleblower from the Mormon church who revealed just the enormous amount of wealth that the LDS church holds. And spoiler alert, turns out was not spending on charitable causes. This was actually first kind of whistle-blown on a website called Mormon Leaks many years ago. David Nielsen, so he worked at Ensign Peak Advisors, which is an investment firm for the Church of Latter-day Saints, and he resigned and filed an IRS whistleblower complaint, which is a very, very brave thing to do and very important. Doing this interview is incredibly brave as well, so I think we should show this man some mad respect. As a bit of a light reprieve before we get into the financial nitty-gritties, I'd like to talk to you about a new animated series. I just spilled coffee all over myself. Do I start over, or do I just accept my life as a person that is covered in coffee stains? Fuck it. I am an authentic voice on the internet. I'm just gonna carry on with coffee stains. Also because the likelihood of changing clothes and then spilling my coffee on myself again is quite high. This is gonna be such a win for all the people who watch and say they are worried that I'm gonna spill my coffee at any moment. It's really empty. Like, you probably can't even see it. I guess when it's full, I'm more careful. I don't know. I'm an idiot. Animation. Many of you who've been here for a while know that I come from the world of film and TV. I was a VFX editor for film and television for a few years. As such, I'm a big fan of animation. There's now probably a hilarious proportion of my friends who currently work or have worked in animation, including Connla of Goddammit fame. One of my favourite things is animated tie-ins to games. You know, like Magic the Gathering does like cool animated shorts when they release new card packs and things like that. I love that stuff. I even watch those for games that I don't play. I don't know, Overwatch, stuff like that. I don't even play Overwatch. I just really like those kind of animations. So I was really excited to learn about Raid, Call of the Arbiter. Oh, I know you've heard it all before about Raid Shadow Legends. Maybe you're even in my clan, but I bet you didn't know that Raid has a new limited animated series. Okay, in my timeline, because of the way that time works between you and me, I've seen the first episode only. It's about Gallic. There's so much for me to gush about when it comes to animation, again, because I've worked in TV. I know a lot of stuff about animation. I was completely distracted, to be honest, by the voice cast. It's got such a good cast. If you're any kind of anime and or video game fan, you will have heard at least half the voice cast before, I promise. Gallic himself and a bunch of the other characters is voiced by Chris Tagliaferra, who is one of my favourite voice actors, mostly because he plays Gundam Tanaka, my favourite character in Danganronpa 2. I was so excited that he's in this. The voice cast is so good, and okay, here's where I'm a little bit jealous because of the way that time works between us. I have to wait like 2 more days for the next episode to premiere. When you see this video, it's already out. The next episode is about Athel, and Athel is voiced by Kimberly Woods, who again, you'll have heard if you're an anime fan, but also, if you're a fan of Archer, it's got such a good voice cast. It's also really clean and just pretty looking, and like I say, I really like these things for expanding the lore. Like, I just think that's so cool. I really like when games do that. You can watch these episodes as they release for free in the game. They release every Thursday at time zone calculation, 10 AM EST until July 20th. I'm so excited for the next episode. The Athel episode comes out like a few hours before my birthday. What a gift. There are new champion bios to dig into, including of course all of the champions featured in the show, like Athel and the others who cares? Actually no, lie, I'm invested in Gallic now. Not gonna lie, I stan Gallic now just because He's voiced by one of my favorite voice actors, and he had an emotional short. You've got to watch it to understand, okay? There's a whole bunch of features added for new players and old. It's a really good time to jump in if you haven't already and join my clan. Everyone has the chance to unlock Artak, who is one of the 5 new characters from the show. It's completely free. All you have to do is log in for 7 days between now and July 24th. If you have not yet started playing Raid, you can sign up using my link in the description, or scan the QR code to get some crazy bonuses, including Epic Champion, Knight Errant, amongst other things, completely free. Even if you check it out just for the limited series Call of the Arbiter, I really, really recommend it. It's super awesome. Such a good cast. If you are interested, consider checking it out via my link down below. You can find me under the name Spunkledork, and no, I will not be taking questions on this matter. Thank you so much for listening, and to Raid for sponsoring this video, and for making a cool limited series and hiring some of my favorite voice actors. Back to the Mormon church. So this video is on the 60 Minutes channel. It is called Mormon Whistleblower. Church's investment firm masquerades as a charity.
I thought I was going to work for a charity. I thought that's what my skills were going to do, was help build a charity and do good with things. And the funds were never used for that. It was really a clandestine hedge fund.
How so?
Those funds weren't used the way they were appropriated to be used.
So how were they being used?
Well, once the money went in, it didn't go out.
David Nielsen was a senior portfolio manager for the investment arm of the church called Ensign Peak Advisors.
Okay, so personally, I've got some pretty niche, weird interests. I'm really interested in financial crime, consumer protection, and religious organizations. So this kind of fits my niche. If you're not really familiar, investing as a religious organization is not that uncommon. It sounds kind of weird to the outsider. It's not that strange. The Church of England makes the majority of its money through investments. Another one for the don't put your faith in organizations counter. Church of England historically invested in arms dealing. Of course, when it comes to things like the Church of England, the majority of that money is spent maintaining mostly the buildings. Obviously, in the case of Mormonism, that money, it seems to be just sitting around.
In 2009, Nielsen, who says he was a devout Mormon, was recruited away from a lucrative job on Wall Street to work for the firm, a block from church headquarters in Salt Lake City.
That is so fascinating that the Mormon church would, I mean, it makes sense from a hiring perspective, right? In terms of, managing investments, but a church hiring off of Wall Street is just super bizarre. And they managed to find like the most ethical man on Wall Street, it almost seems like.
You know this, Wall Street, you spend your skills working to make really rich people a little bit more rich. But there is something different about the prospect of putting your skills to work for something that you think is really going to build the kingdom, that's really going to make a difference.
He seems very self-aware. Like I think I'm instinctively biased because I know this chap is a whistleblower and is standing up against the church, the LDS church. So I'm instinctively biased towards liking him. But it's just really pleasant to hear somebody from Wall Street say that the purpose essentially of working Wall Street is to make rich people richer. And he moved away from that to work towards charitable causes to support his faith.
Nielsen says he grew troubled by what he saw at Ensign Peak. He says the firm used false records and statements to masquerade as a charity, stockpiling money and misleading church members. Every year, the church collects an estimated $7 billion in contributions from its 17 million members. The church expects members to contribute about 10% of their income.
Explain how the tithe is supposed to be used.
Tithing is what's used to build buildings. It's what's used to pay the light bills. Tithing is what's used to operate some of the church's programs.
Whatever's left over, about $1 billion a year, is put into a reserve fund at Ensign Peak and invested.
Yeah, the purpose is meant to be maintaining buildings, paying the bills. Whatever is left over is reinvested or used for charitable reasons, right? That's kind of meant to be the point, What would Jesus do? Not hoard wealth. I'm pretty sure.
Ensign Peak is registered as a nonprofit. It all grows tax-free. David Nielsen says since it was created in 1997, the reserve fund has swelled beyond $100 billion.
Wow.
It solved big problems with $100 billion.
And is that the thing that bothers you about all this?
I thought we were going to change the world. and we just grew the bank account.
Did any of your former bosses explain how the money was going to be used one day?
The answer was always the second coming. It's a bit tongue-in-cheek, but deep down, I think a lot of the employees really did believe that.
So that is so Scientology. Scientology has the same, the way that its finances function in that it hoards wealth for the purposes of, well, also the second coming. It's just that in Scientology, it's the second coming of L. Ron Hubbard rather than Jesus Christ. If you can forgive me quoting a bit of Bible at you, one of Jesus's most famous quotes, one that I will always remember, is in Matthew chapter 19, verse 24. The English Standard Version reads, "Again I tell you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to enter the kingdom of God." It just seems to me antithetical to Jesus's whole thing supporting the poor and the needy to hoard wealth for his future benefit. At least, I can't believe I'm saying at least in Scientology's case, but at least in Scientology's case, if L. Ron Hubbard came back, he would be very pleased to have the wealth and the assets that have been hoarded for him. I feel like, maybe it's not my place to say, this is my personal opinion, I feel like Jesus Christ would not be happy to find that his followers had been hoarding billions, over $100 billion for his coming. Is he going to have a coronation like the king? Like, what? Even that was only £100 million. Like, what does he need it for? I don't really understand. I struggle to empathize with somebody of the Mormon faith who believes in Jesus Christ as the savior and in his word as the ultimate truth and the ultimate morality. I struggle to empathize with their thinking that it is correct, it is morally right to mislead those followers in pursuit of hoarding wealth for him. I do not understand how you connect A to B there.
Publicly, church leaders called it a rainy day fund. But in 2013, Nielsen says one of his bosses shared this document at a meeting that showed $1.4 billion from the fund went to a mall being built on land owned by the church. And $600 million was used to prop up a for-profit, church-owned insurance company called Beneficial Life.
Welcome to the fucking capitalist dystopia of the American dream. Your church organization is investing billions of your donations into a shopping mall. Isn't that so fucking tragic and yet so predictable?
Look, I'm not an expert on charities, but I've been around the block enough to know that charitable organizations can't bail out for-profit businesses and maintain their charitable status.
A website called Mormon Leaks linked church members to companies that existed only on paper. Those shell companies held billions of dollars in stocks and bonds. What nobody knew outside church leadership was those assets were actually controlled by Ensign Peak.
What was the explanation?
These entities were to hide the assets from the members.
Wow, you don't get more explicit than that. The church said, we made these shell companies to hide our enormous wealth from members of the church. I really hope that this whistleblowing and especially 60 Minutes making this more mainstream knowledge, because this was known about through Mormon Leaks for a while, but most people don't find that information, don't know that information until it is front page news. I hope that this has the same impact that a lot of the, say, scandals involving the Catholic Church had. I can't tell you how many people I've spoken to who were proud Catholics until finding out about the Catholic Church covering up abuse. I really hope that this has the same kind of impact on members of the LDS Church. There's no reason you can't take that faith, and a lot of people end up leaving the faith anyway when they start to challenge the organization and then challenge their beliefs. But there's no reason you can't separate that faith away from the organization and say, okay, this is, there is a financial interest here. This is being poisoned by greed, by sin, if you like. There is no sense in putting the same faith you do in the Heavenly Father in a company, essentially. Especially when it is outright said by the higher-ups, we are intentionally misleading members of the church to hide money from them, to hide their money that they've donated from them. Maybe some people will be taken in by the rainy day excuse. I urge those people to sit down and work out what exactly Jesus Christ is going to spend $100 billion on.
Investment officer said that if we were to change and start reporting these securities in our own name, it would bring undue attention to the firm, and that attention would be potentially damaging. And after the meeting, I went and confronted him. And he said, Dave, we were going to lose our tax-exempt status. I knew in that moment that I was in the wrong place.
Good lad. Here's the thing, and this sort of ties into my more general beliefs, because I don't believe you can be an ethical billionaire. I don't believe in this idea of one wealthy philanthropist can save the world, because demonstrably it cannot be. The only way to be an ethical billionaire, in my opinion, is to not be a billionaire, because you've given away, invested, donated enough money that you don't have billions in personal assets. So I struggle to understand this on any level, but religious organizations are really held to a higher standard. They're held to a higher standard just ethically in our minds because they're supposed to be driven by a higher purpose, because they are supposed to share with their members the same morals, the same beliefs, and those often center around, anti-greed, in kindness and compassion and giving, especially to the poor and needy. So it's just unthinkable that they could be hoarding over £100 billion. Sorry, I keep saying pounds. Over $100 billion and would be concerned about losing tax-exempt status. I mean, there is financial interest there. When you have that much money, how much difference would taxes make, honestly? There is financial interest there because clearly they're incredibly greedy for money. Somebody, at least a few people in the Mormon church, in the LDS church, are greedy for hoarding wealth. Whether they believe that's for Jesus and is the right thing is whatever, doesn't concern me. I can't get inside their heads and know one way or the other for a fact, so put that to one side. I don't care what they believe. They're greedy for whatever reason. A big part of the reason, and again, this ties in with so much I've read about Scientology, a big part of the reason that tax-exempt status is so important is because that has a psychological effect almost on the way people view the organization. You are a real church. You are a real religion if you have this tax-exempt status. There was a big stink in the UK recently regarding a church losing its tax-exempt status because of misusing, misappropriating funds, not reporting funds properly. And yet, here's what I think regarding transparency and things like that. And again, much like how people lost faith in the Catholic Church because of years of deception, of brushing incredibly important things under the rug and hiding them from their members, and in doing so, causing pain to their members and protecting the people that caused that pain, deliberately hiding things from members of the LDS Church and brushing those things under the rug and not talking about them and just keeping it secret because it's better, that lack of transparency is often what pushes people away. People can't have faith in an organization they can't trust. And very clearly, you can't trust the LDS Church. It's going to the effort of creating shell companies to hide money from its members. You cannot trust an organization like that with your money. If you can't trust them with your money, should you trust them with your faith, with your spirituality?
He resigned in 2019 and filed a 74-page whistleblower complaint with the Internal Revenue Service, alleging that Ensign Peak violated its tax-exempt status by moving money to for-profit businesses.
It's not just incorrect, it's flat out wrong.
Christopher Waddell says David Nielsen didn't have a full picture of Ensign Peak. Waddell is one of 3 church bishops who oversees finances.
Well, he's not going to have a biased opinion, is he? So here's Chris Waddell's formal title. He is the first counselor in the presiding bishopric. Prick.
As a Christian church, we believe that someday Jesus Christ will return, but that's not why we have those resources. It's for the continuing operation and for the future.
Hello, I am a person who makes money, and sometimes I do good things with it. Sometimes I buy coffee with it. But you don't know how much is which, and I would like to have $100 billion just in case, please. Thank you.
It's alleged that Ensign Peak violated its tax-exempt status by directing money to church businesses. How would you characterize how that money was used?
The church actually owned Beneficial Life, and fortunately, the church had the resources to bail out Beneficial Life during the financial crisis, 2008, 2009.
First Counselor Waddell admits that allegation is true. It's a for-profit company owned by the church. They bailed it out in the financial crisis. I suppose he probably thinks, and people who agree with Waddell probably think, that that is an example of the necessity of having these funds stored away. But 100 billion is unbelievably excessive. How it impacts the IRS in terms of the church's tax-exempt status when it's something that the church owns, I don't know. American tax system... I paid an accountant to do my America-related taxes for me, okay? For a reason. As usual, by the way, if you have good insight, please leave your thoughts and knowledge down below. I learned so much from the comment section. Thank you very much.
In the mall?
The mall was not a bailout. The mall was an investment.
And you are receiving returns on that
absolutely.
investment.
Yeah, it was an investment.
I mean, yeah, that's it really, isn't it? He admits the allegations. They're investing donor money in for-profit organizations. They admit that. But it all begs the question, and it all brings attention back to, why was it necessary to hide this? Why was it necessary to create shell companies to hide the moving of money around the Mormon church? Because if their feeling was that church members might have a negative reaction to that, surely the response is not, we better not tell them. The response is, why would followers of our faith have a problem with that? Maybe we should go back to the Bible and see what Jesus said about wealth and the poor. No, it's like, we just won't tell them. I have plenty of problems with the Mormon faith, with the LDS Church, but fundamentally, the people of the Mormon Church are being taken advantage of here. People who were born into or brought into this faith, they're driven by what they believe is righteous, they're trying to do good by the faith that they have. They are being lied to by the church organization that is hoarding their money for, let's be honest, false pretenses. Because I cannot, if you disagree, I'd love to hear your explanation. I cannot reconcile a world in which Jesus came back and was like, 100 billion? It's probably enough. I could have done with a bit more, but I guess this'll do, thanks guys. You know what I mean?
Waddell says the insurance company has paid back most of the bailout money, but the church would not disclose the details of that deal or the mall investment. Unlike other nonprofits, religious organizations don't have to fully disclose all financial information to the IRS.
That, actually, I should have included that earlier. I sort of sailed past that. I forgot to mention it when I was saying there were a couple of reasons that organizations seek tax-exempt status. One is to be tax-exempt and to save money. One is to be seen as legitimate, as a real religion in the eyes of the public. Again, this is why it was so important to Scientology to be taken seriously, to be mainstream. The other reason is this. This is very important. It's that they don't have to fully disclose their financial information if they are a registered religious charity tax-exempt organization, which means they can do these dodgy deals and nobody knows about it until a whistleblower report is made to the IRS.
What is the value right now of Ensign Peak's assets?
Yeah, that's something I can't share with you right now.
Why? Pray tell why, Christopher. First Counselor Christopher. Surely in the interest of transparency with your followers and rebuilding trust that your followers might have lost, surely being transparent about the amount of money the LDS Church has in this particular organization they own is the most sensible option. Unless it's such an obscene amount of money that it will make people angry, which again, maybe means we should rethink, considering our faith, why people would be angry at us holding that amount of money. It is a way of thinking that is very Wall Street. It's financially driven. It's keeping things status quo and quiet. It is not, in any regard, what is the most ethical thing to do for our religion, for the members of our organization. No way.
And that's as far as we can go right now.
It's been estimated at $150 billion. Does that sound correct?
That's an estimate that some have made.
Are we in the ballpark or no?
We have significant resources.
I actually speak First Counselor, so I can translate this for you. Yes. Because if it was significantly less, he would have said it's significantly less. What he said was, yeah, that's an estimate people have made. We have significant resources. So, yes, estimates around $150 billion are at least reasonable, are at least ballpark close, which almost makes me think maybe it's more, because I feel like if it was less, he would have said so.
Give us a sense of what percentage is going out the door.
To be honest, we've never looked at it as a percentage. We looked at it based on needs to make sure that we're comfortable with how many.
Well, no, because you're an organisation that keeps track of your finances, so somebody will know the percentage. Just because that's not how you look at it doesn't mean you don't know what percentage of your money is going out to needs. $150 billion sat under his fucking ass. We look at needs. People are fucking starving and homeless in your own country, on your own doorstep. That doesn't count in needs. It's not as important as the hypothetical return of Jesus Christ in the future, in which he will need hundreds of billions of dollars. Oh, it makes me so cross.
Years worth we have in case of financial difficulties, in case of financial crisis, to make sure that we can continue church operations. We just want to make sure that is sufficient.
So yeah, basically his argument, Christopher's argument, First Councillor Waddle's argument is that it is a rainy day fund. You do not need I'm just going to keep saying the amount because it is so shocking. You do not need $150 billion in rainy day funds. This ties back again to my feelings on incredible wealth and wealth inequality in general. I think it's disgusting. It's disgusting. Whatever organisation or person, religious or not, I think it's disgusting for any person or organisation to hoard that much wealth because it is more than a person could ever use or need. You simply don't need that much money. The only ethical way to be a billionaire is to not be a billionaire. It is just insane to me that this man, Chrissy here, can sit around smirking with his little fucking, we do have significant resources, dickhead, that he can sit around smiling and being casual about the fact that yes, our church does hoard that much money. I just love to see the reactions of maybe Mormon families who are struggling financially, seeing that from their church leaders, because I really hope that is at least eye-opening for some people. They do not give a shit about you. They care far more. This is just explicitly fact. They prioritize their own financial investments, bailing out their own companies, for-profit organizations that they own. They prioritize them over charitable causes, over their own members. That's a fact.
David Nielsen says he did not intend for his complaint to the IRS to become public. But in 2019, his brother shared it with the Washington Post.
I can understand why David wouldn't want this to be public at first, because as tends to be the case with organizations like the LDS Church, your entire sort of social group, family, friends, everything tends to be within the church and strongly influenced by the church as an organization. Completely understand why you would want that to be private. I think the right thing to do was make it public, because other members of the church deserve to know what is being hidden from them by the organization that they are donating their money to.
Nielsen, who in his free time races motorcycles, says he was shunned by some of his friends and neighbors in Salt Lake City.
That's it. That's why. That's exactly what I'm saying. That is, I should have let it play on a minute more, because it was inevitable, really, that was going to be the outcome. Poor David. Because then you get shunned by the church, which is a brilliant tactic, a brilliant cult-like tactic. We won't get into today whether the Mormon church is a cult or not, although there's some great videos out there on that already. It is a very cult-like tactic by churches like this to keep people insular, to keep people reliant on the church, even when they find out things like the church is misusing money, or hiding money, or creating shell companies to hide money. Many people, even if they think what the church is doing is wrong, won't speak out because they are afraid of being shunned by their communities and having no one and nowhere to go.
It wasn't until 2021, 2 years later, that David Nielsen heard from investigators. Not from the IRS, but the Securities and Exchange Commission, which launched its own probe into Ensign Peak after that website story linked the church to shell companies.
What information did you give to the SEC?
Everything.
To protect market fairness and transparency, any firm with more than $100 million in securities must file accurate reports on its holdings with the SEC. But in February, the SEC announced the Church of Latter-day Saints and Ensign Peak failed to do that. SEC investigators found the church went to great lengths to hide $32 billion in securities over nearly 20 years.
Sneaky fuckers. There is no shred of doubt they were doing everything they can to skirt the law and hide this money from their members. It's not a question, it's a fact.
Here they had these back office accountants who had never bought a bond or sold stock a day in their life, signing signatory pages for a portfolio that didn't exist.
The SEC fined the church and Ensign Peak a total of $5 million.
Which is a fucking drop in the ocean when they're hoarding an estimated over $150 billion. And this is why so much of this stuff seems to just go away. This is why so much of the backlash against Scientology until more recently just went away, because they had the cash resources to just wipe it away. What's 5 million to a company with 150 billion? It's such a big amount of money, you can't even conceive of it, because I'm trying to, in my head, register the difference between 5 million and 150 billion. But 5 million is so enormous that it's like trying to conceive of the size of the Milky Way. It's just beyond a regular human's understanding. That's how much money we're talking about.
Elle told us it was the church's lawyers who advised them to create the shell companies.
What about, the idea that secrecy builds mistrust?
Mm-hmm. Well, we don't feel it's being secret. We feel it's being confidential.
Aw, Christopher owns a thesaurus. Fuck off. What is confidentiality if not secrecy? That's the lamest shit I've ever heard. Did he practice that?
What's the difference?
Thank
The
you.
difference is, I guess it's a point of view. It's
The difference is, dickhead trying to get away with semantics. Oh, we weren't being secretive, we were being confidential. Thanks, Chris. Good job.
confidential in order to maintain the focus on what our purpose is and what the mission of the church is, rather than the church has X amount of money.
But don't you agree this would be a non-issue if there was more transparency?
No, because then everyone would be telling us what they wanted us to do with the money.
Imagine your church members telling you what they want you to do with the money that they have given you. And okay, yes, that they have made from investments. This is my view, okay? At this point, this is my specific view. This is kind of the way I think about government as well, right? You as the church should be working for the members of your church, right? Your money should be providing services for them, should be supporting causes that help them, things that they believe in. The idea that it's a problem that LDS faithful might want to say in where the money that their church has goes, isn't that just the most clear and frank explanation of, like, they don't give a shit? They don't care about the followers of the faith. They don't want to know what followers of the faith think they should do with their money because they want to hoard it. So they thought it was better to keep it secret from you. How can you hear that and still have faith in the church as an organization? No fucking way. No fucking way.
Last year, the church says it spent over $1 billion on humanitarian aid, including food production.
In any given month, you may have an average of 9 transfers that going from Ensign Peak back to the church to fund all church operations, all humanitarian work, education work, all the work of the church, they fund.
Money's going in and out of the cash accounts all the time, but Ensign Peak's funds were never used for any charitable purpose. It's, to my knowledge, the whole time I was there. So there's a bit of a distinction here that's important. Well, it's the difference between your checking account and maybe your retirement account. They're used for different purposes, and you don't get to pretend that one is affecting the other.
What David is saying here essentially is that they have funds, they make money from, they make profit from investments, and they get money from donators, and they spend a certain amount on church causes, church funds. That is irrelevant to the fact that they have this other massive fund that is just sitting there, unused, being hoarded, which is what Christopher described as the rainy day fund earlier.
Fundamental claim to me is that Ensign Peak brings money in, and it's the Hotel California. It never comes out.
Bill Hackney worked in the Office of Chief Counsel of the IRS and teaches tax law. He concedes it's complex, and the case falls into a gray area.
The church would say, we give millions of dollars out every year in humanitarian work. How much is enough by the standards of the IRS?
We know within private foundations, it's 5% of assets. There's no clarity when it comes to public charities, and certainly not with churches. But I would expect to see something like 2-3% of assets being spent out.
And that is nothing. 2-3% of billions and billions of dollars. And that's all that's being expected, and it's still closer to zero.
Justify that status.
But how do you know if they're spending 2 or 3% of assets if we don't know what the assets are?
We have to rely on them behaving well.
They said they bailed out this insurance company. That's the words they used. Is that a problem?
It is a problem if they have moved money from the nonprofit to a for-profit.
So how likely do you think it would be that the IRS would ever investigate this?
Slim.
And that's the fucking problem, isn't it? Not to keep bringing up Scientology, although I guess it makes a change from the Catholic Church. This is something that I talked about with Mike Rinder. I spoke to Mike Rinder, former high-ranking Scientologist turned whistleblower, like David, and he sort of expressed this frustration with the way religious organizations are legally treated by the government in the USA. There is such hesitancy to even investigate, let alone prosecute, a religious organization, because the backlash can be huge, and the backlash will come from other religious organizations, even a slightly outsider church, a church that maybe many of the other mainstream churches might think is a bit weird and out there, will probably get support from those churches if they go up against the government in terms of their tax exempt status and stuff, because that as a concept threatens the other church institutions. So you just have this weird no man's land where there aren't really, it's this grey area as they describe, where there aren't really that many rules set in stone, and people are very hesitant to investigate the company anyway. And even if they did investigate, the rules that they're breaking aren't really clear. It's completely fucked up. It means that these organizations, because they are a religion, because they can call themselves a religion, they are beholden to essentially no one. They don't have to report what they're doing with their money. They can use these shell companies to discreetly move money around. They have moved money from their charitable organization to a for-profit organization to bail it out during a financial crisis, and essentially there's nothing to be done because nobody is willing to do anything. Lately there has been more pushback against things like Scientology, the Church of Scientology, which I hope can somewhat influence the way people treat these kind of investigations. Maybe we will get an IRS investigation into the LDS Church. That would be fantastic. But we can't rely on that as a thing. We can send as many letters as we like to the IRS. That's not going to force them to investigate. They will or they won't. The government will change. People will have different priorities. We can hope that somebody somewhere cares enough to hold religious organizations to the same standards as other organizations. Until then, all we can do is try and make this sort of information as mainstream as possible, try and get it out there as much as possible, so that Mormon people of the Mormon faith, see this. The only way we can stop the Mormon Church from hoarding people's money is to convince people to stop giving their money to the Mormon Church. They are sitting on so much cash that could be used for so many different things, that could be used even if it was just used to support members of the Mormon Church, and they're choosing not to. And they're choosing to hide that fact. People of the church have to know so they can make their own choices about that.
The political risk is so great that it comes with real danger. At the same time, there's a real risk to the rule of law if the IRS doesn't come in and enforce those rules.
The IRS does not comment on whistleblower complaints.
Why are you speaking now?
It's time, Sharon. We gave the IRS and the SEC all the professional courtesy. This is just too important to fall through the cracks.
It's possible that you were dead wrong.
No. I know what I saw. I know what I know.
I agree that it's important. I'm really glad and just grateful for whistleblowers in general. What we learned here, the fundamentals of what we learned from not just David as a whistleblower, but from the church themselves, is that their fear is that members of the organization, members of the church, members of the faith will tell them what they think they should do with the money they have hoarded. How is that in any way ethical for a religious organization. Their fear, realistically, is that the people of the church will say, oh, we have all this money, there's just been a disaster in Syria. Let's send X amount of money and invest in aid and send people over to help. That's the church's fear, right? They don't want church members to know how much money they have, because then they would have to spend it on charitable things. Instead, they can say, oh, we spent $9 million doing good things and paying the electric bills for our churches, while they quietly sit on $150 fucking billion because they don't want to be told that that's unethical and the antithesis of what their faith is supposed to be about. Permit me, if you will, to throw out one more Bible quote from Timothy for you. This is chapter 6, verses 17 to 18. Command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in God, who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. Command them to do good, to be rich in good deeds, and be generous and willing to share. Proverbs, verse 14, chapter 31, whoever oppresses a poor man insults his maker, but he who is generous to the needy honors him. We could do this all day. The Bible is full to the brim of lessons about not being greedy, not hoarding wealth, of helping the poor and the needy, of trusting in God instead and God will provide. That's without even getting into, honesty and that kind of thing. There is such a precedent in the Bible for the exact opposite of what the LDS Church is doing here. I think this is Timothy as well. I can't 100% remember. Money is the root of all evils. It's mad to me, the concept of being a firm believer in God, the Bible, and Jesus Christ, and thinking that it's okay to sit on top of, again, hundreds of billions of dollars and hide that from the members of your church. Props again to David Nielsen, the whistleblower. It's a terrible shame and completely unsurprising that he faced shunning from some members of his community, especially because he is a Mormon living in Salt Lake City, simply for speaking the truth, for bringing attention to the acts of the church. If you try and think about it logically, it's a completely bizarre thing to shun somebody for. That sense of isolation and us versus them and insiders and outsiders is part of how they keep people so invested in the church, so unwilling to speak out, and fundamentally giving them money. I don't see a way that anyone of any faith can think that this is possibly ethical. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Do let me know your thoughts down below. Again, if you are more familiar than me with the way the IRS functions, the way that taxes work in the US, if you've got any kind of insight, if you have been or are a member of the Mormon Church, if you have any kind of insight, please leave your thoughts down below. If you don't have any insight, still leave your thoughts down below. And if you don't even have any thoughts, you can say quack quack in the comments. And that'll be good too. If you did enjoy this video and you're interested in this kind of content, there is a Skeptic Saturday playlist full of all kinds of things that you might enjoy. Do consider subscribing to the channel. As I've previously mentioned, it does make me happy when the number goes up. If you enjoy hearing me ramble and spill drinks on myself and things like that, you can check out Emma Thorne Extra to see behind the scenes videos and more casual vlogging stuff and general life content. It's very chill and silly over there. Hopefully you enjoy a bit of nonsense. If you enjoy gaming stuff, do consider checking out Little Duck Gaming on YouTube. You don't want to miss out on the Peppa Pig World Adventures playthrough that's happening right now. It's insane, I'm telling you. I'm also usually live on Twitch 3 times a week. You can find me at Emma Little Duck. Ducks are kind of my thing, if you didn't know. If you would like comment priority and some fun and silly emotes, you can become a channel member. The best way to support this channel and help me make all of the silly, stupid things is over on the Patreon. Patrons get some exclusive videos, posts. I always post merch early and give patrons a discount for merch over there. We do a monthly live stream hangout for my colossal quackers and giant chickens. It's a lot of fun. And if you join the Patreon at any level, you get lifelong access to the Little Duck Gang Discord, where there are hilarious memes, cute animal pictures, some really good frog emotes. It's the hip happening place to be, I'll leave it at that. By the way, it's my birthday today. As in the time that you're watching this, it is my birthday. So Happy birthday to me. I don't know, I just realised that and felt the need to say it. I'm sorry, that probably came out quite a bit self-centered, but it is my birthday, and I feel like you should know. Before we go, I must give a big old shank you, that is a shout out and a thank you, to my giant chickens and colossal quackers over on Patreon. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you have yourselves a very lovely week, and I will see you really soon.